Hi everybody, welcome back. This is KrazyBatLady. So today I want to go over Ganyu and show you a little guide about how to play her. She's coming up soon in the next banner and definitely a good choice if you do not have her to pull for her. Because she's pretty easy to build and does a ton of damage. She lives up to the hype. I'm going to show you all her builds, teams, and everything else there is that you would want to know about her in this video. So let's take a look at the Cocogoat's talents first. Her normal / charge attack is where most of her damage is going to come from typically. You actually, rather than other bow users, you hold down the charge twice and this releases a Frostflake arrow, and it releases a large AoE. If you've played Warframe, it's kind of similar to using the Kufa. It's very nice and it can hit a lot of enemies at once and it just deals insane amount of damage. The modifiers on it are huge. Definitely the largest charge attack damage out of any bow user in the game. That matched with her high raw attack stat makes her very strong. Now she has her elemental skill, which is basically a decoy. Ignore the inherited HP on there, as it doesn't really matter. You put out this decoy, it attracts enemies, and they attack it a little bit, it blows up, and it is what it is. It's not her best ability, but it can help get all of the aggro away from you using this. So it is useful. But it's not going to do as much damage as her other abilities. So with the Celestial Shower though, the Celestial Shower is an amazing ability. It's a huge area of effect and it rains icicles. The modifier might not be that big and it doesn't look that appealing, but take a look at the duration and the cooldown. This can have 100% uptime if you have the right stats in your build, which I will actually go over a little later in the video. And these icicles add up a lot. As I said, the modifier might not seem very big, but it's a lot of icicles. And you get a lot of particles from her elemental skill to charge that up. Now, one thing to keep in mind about Ganyu is that you get 20% crit rate when using her Frostflake arrow, which is pretty much going to be all the time, so you pretty much passively get 20%. And if you're using another cryo unit, that's 35%. Just from the enemy being affected by cryo, that's pretty huge, honestly. So you don't have to worry about crit as much, especially if you're using a Blizzard Strayer. Her other passive ability is going to grant a 20% cryo damage bonus while in the area of effect of a Celestial Shower. Now this is huge. This is great for her. It's good for support. It's just a flat 20% cryo damage bonus. And her last skill refunds 15% of ore while crafting bow type weapons. So if you do plan on pulling for her and you want to make the prototype Crescent or Hamayumi, I suggest waiting to get her before building these weapons to save yourself on some ore. Alright, now here's a little showcase of what she can do using the right setup and freezing enemies. As you can see, her Frostflake arrow hits so many things at once, like she just obliterated the whole room. And not to mention, you don't even have to hit the enemy for the Frostflake to work. You can hit the ground around them, and that's one of my favorite things about this, is just the AoE is so big. As a matter of fact, that's actually one of the best ways for melting with Ganyu, is by hitting the ground around the enemy who's affected by the pyro. And also, she's really good at solving these, whatever you want to call them, puzzles. You know what I'm talking about, where you want to explode all the barrels. She can hit like 3 of them at once. So let's go on to her best teams. I like to run a mono cryo team a lot, especially when out in the wild. You can use Zhongli, Diona, whoever, Sucrose. Shenhe is an amazing teammate for her, and the bump in damage you get from Shenhe is just insane. And I'll have to show a little bit of footage showing just how insane the buff is. If you're planning on pulling for Ganyu and you have enough Primogems, I would grab Shenhe too. This is using the Hamiyumi, and I'm hitting about 26,000 something. Now let's look at the Shenhe buff. Now that's going up to 37,000. That is a huge, huge buff, and my Shenhe's not even maxed out. So just keep that in mind. A very popular team to run is a variation of Morgana. If you have Venti, more power to you. I do not, but Sucrose works pretty well for this type of setup, where you basically freeze the enemies and just go ham. Another really good setup is a Melt team, which looks like this. You could also swap out whatever shield character or Sucrose for Zhongli if you don't have him. But you definitely want Bennett and Xiangling for the constant pyro applications and extra damage. And Sucrose could be there definitely to amplify the reaction some more. Now here's a support team that is also very good. You can run Ayaka, Sucrose, Xingqiu, and Ganyu as a support / battery for Ayaka, because she'll be constantly giving her 20% cryo damage bonus and also battering her. And you can also use variations of this with Hu Tao and other characters. So let's go on to the builds, starting with the DPS build. Now here's my build that I like to use. Very high attack stat. And the crit is not going to look impressive, but do keep in mind what I said earlier about the 35% crit bonus. And I'm not using Blizzard Strayer, but if you're using Blizzard Strayer along with that, then you're going to have a ridiculous amount of crit rate. Amos Bow being her best in slot, as it just makes her deal a ton of extra damage, but don't worry, there's a lot of other good options as well. The Skyward Harp is a really nice option if you have it and you need the crit stats, but I would definitely choose Amos Bow over the Skyward because you probably won't need that much crit, and you just get better damage modifiers off the Amos. Now, Hamiyumi is going to be your best free-to-play choice. At Refinement 5, this gives you a massive 48% bonus to your charge attacks. The Blackcliff Warbow is also a good choice. The Prototype Crescent is fine. Viridescent Hunt is okay. So I would go for Hamiyumi, personally. That's what I went for before I got the Amos Bow anyhow. And as for artifacts, there's actually several options here. You can run a 4-piece Wanderer's Troop, which is great not only for melt, but for the charge attack bonus. You want to stack as much crit rate and crit chance and attack percentage as possible. Running in attack Sands is pretty much mandatory, as well as a cryo damage bonus goblet. For the circlet, run either crit rate or crit damage, whichever one that you're lacking and need more of. It couldn't hurt to get elemental mastery in the substats, as well as energy recharge. Another really good set to run is a 4-piece Shimenawa, because you'll get 50% bonus damage on your charged attacks, and that's very, very nice. And as I mentioned before, another really nice set is the 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. I just don't have very good Blizzard Strayer pieces, so I don't have enough to run a 4-piece of that on any of my cryo characters. But if you choose to go for that one, I wish you the best of luck. And you can also use a variation. You can use 2 Blizzard, 2 Glad, Shiminawa, maybe even 2 Wanderer's Troop. But I highly recommend running one of the 4-piece that I mentioned before. Now, a typical rotation with Ganyu as a charge shot DPS is going to be casting everyone's abilities, such as Bennett, Shungling, Shenhe, and then you just go ham with your bow. So, not too bad. Or if you have a shielder, use them. This is some footage from the last Spiral Abyss. She just absolutely tore through these doggos, no problem. She can definitely be an account changer for you. Like, if you're in need of a DPS really bad, she's a great choice. She plays different for most characters. She's sort of just like a power creep Cryo Amber, if you want to call her that. Yeah, definitely awesome unit to have. And she's really cute. So, the overview of this is the best 4-piece sets are going to be the Wanderers, the Shiminawa, and the Blizzard Strayer. But you can also work with a 2-piece Shiminawa Glad or a 2-piece Blizzard Strayer. Now, her best weapons are the Hamayumi and Amos Bow, but the Skyward Harp, Prototype Crescent, and Blackcliff Warbow all work fine as well, as you just want to get the most damage out of her charge shots. So that is why I mentioned the Hamayumi and Amos Bow. But crit stats are important as well. So let's move right on to her support build. Her support build, we're going to be focusing more on energy recharge. And a good set to run here is going to be the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate. And probably an energy recharge Sands. And of course, you can also run 2-piece Blizzard Strayer, 2-piece Glad Shiminawa. You just want to make sure that you have a lot of energy recharge, somewhere close to 200%. As this is going to help you have massive uptime on your burst. Now, I'm using the Skyward Harp because I find that to be the best and I need the crit stats, but you can also use the Sacrificial Bow or the Favonius Warbow. Everyone has a Favonius Warbow, so that's a fine choice. You get a ton of energy recharge from it, and not too bad. And another bow that's really good is the Elegy for the End. I don't have this personally, but if you have this, it's got a lot of ER, and also it gives a nice buff to your teammates. You can also use the Moon's Moon, Moin's Moon, Moon's Morn. I don't know how to pronounce that, as it's going to give you a pretty big bump in your ultimate damage, especially with more refinements. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the energy recharge substat, but from what I've seen, it's pretty good for her Celestial Shower. And I may have mentioned this earlier, but great teammates to pair with her are going to be Ayaka, Hu Tao, even Kokomi, probably so many others that you can work with the Celestial Shower. Here's a great example here, where I'm using Burst Ganyu. The Frost Flakes are still doing okay damage, but this is mostly just to buff Ayaka and keep everything frozen. See, they're already done for. And head over here, take care of them too. And the Monolith hardly took any damage. Okay, so for the support build, the best 4-piece are going to be Blizzard Strayer, Noblesse for buffing your teammates, and the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate. You can also use 2-piece Emblem, Shiminawa, Glad, Blizzard Strayer, and of course, the noblesse oblige. So for her best weapons, you're going to want high energy recharge or crit stats, whichever you're needing more. I would say her best support weapon is going to be Elegy for the End. Of course, a lot of people aren't going to have that, so Favonius Warbow is a great choice, as literally everyone has that one. And then, of course, there's all the crit weapons and other energy recharge weapons that you can choose. Okay, so now I want to go over Ganyu's constellations. Her first constellation, basically every time you fire a level 2 charge shot and her Frostflake blooms hit enemies or the AoE hits enemies, their cryo resistance gets reduced by 15%, and you also regenerate 2 energy for Ganyu. This is pretty useful, actually. Not bad at all for getting your energy back, because you're always going to be spamming those anyhow, and reducing cryo resistance means more damage. Her Constellation 2 gives you an extra charge of her elemental skill, which isn't really game-changing or anything unless you have her C6, but I'll go more on that in a little bit. Her Constellation 3 is really nice because it increases the level of Celestial Shower by 3. And more ultimate damage is good. Even if it doesn't scale very high, that's a lot of extra damage. Constellation 4 is actually pretty nice. Opponents standing within the AoE of Celestial Shower take increased damage, and this effect strengthens over time. So it increases by 5% every 3 seconds, up to a maximum of 25%, and it lingers for 3 seconds after they leave the AoE. So most of the time, they're not going to be at 25%, unfortunately, but it is definitely going to increase your DPS a lot. And Constellation 5 increases the level of your elemental skill. And her 6, this is where it gets interesting. When you use a Trail of the Keeling, her elemental skill causes the next Frostflake arrow shot within 30 seconds to not require charging. So basically you just fire off an extra shot. And so with her Constellation 2, this means you can cast her elemental skill, get a free shot, cast it again, and get another free shot. And while this wouldn't be very practical, you could use the Sacrificial Bow and get another shot. But anyhow, her constellations are really great if you're going for those, especially the 1, 4, and 6. Anyhow, I hope that you found this guide helpful, and if you are pulling for Ganyu on her rerun, I wish you the best of luck, as it's been a very long time, and she's an amazing character, and she's super sweet and cute. Anyhow, I hope you have a great day. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you around.